tonight?
Doing good.
It's good for us to get back into conference play, and last week's game was huge to get a win to wrap up the non-conference schedule. This is the third game of that middle stretch we talked about, that 3-game home stretch we have. And we got a bye week coming up afterwards, so really, really important. And talking to all our guys that we wanted to try to win all 3 games during this home stretch right now, and we've won the first 2, and so we have that opportunity now. Playing a very tough Kentucky team, a team that's improved every year we've played them. Under Mark Stoops, you just see that he's recruited a bunch of talent. They got a lot of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. Led by a quarterback who had a big game against us last year. We got to see everything he could do last year, running, throwing, everything. Total package player in our game last year. How well he performed there, and and then you watch them, guys that just understand their defense. I know you watch how hard they play on defense. They run the ball. They play stout, physical defense. In similar ways, like us, they lost some guys on the defense side of the ball to the NFL last year. But you see guys stepping in and just making plays, and they don't really seem to miss a beat on that defensive side of the ball with those guys out. So it's going to be a huge challenge for us this week. Obviously, being at home in this conference, that's a big advantage. We need we need the fans there to have that home field advantage and creating the crowd noise and the environment, the excitement, and the energy in the stadium, that it gives you a home field advantage for that.
Questions?
This has turned into a big rivalry. You haven't lost to Kentucky, but it seems like all these games are competitive every year, even last year, #1. Just talk about how that rivalry's kind of evolves.
Well, I think anytime that you have your crossover game, a team that you're going to play as your our locked-in crossover, or every year crossover, or whatever it is called. But I think there becomes a little bit of a rivalry with that. That's the team from the East that we're going to play every single year. So that team. You kind of know each other, and I think it brings a little different edge. When you play other SEC West teams, there's that edge because you play each other every year, and there's that rivalry. Then you cross over to the East, but the team you play every year, I think it just makes it a little bit different. And so it is. And if you watch the games over the last, over my going to the year 7 here, all 6 games against Kentucky have been pretty close, exciting games that seem to come right down to the wire every single year. And so I think that just speaks to the nature of how both teams view the rivalry.
Saturday you talked about Dak finding the balance between knowing when to run. How do you coach that, or is that just a feel thing?
Well, you do coach it, and just knowing in certainty. There's feel and there's coaching to it. There's some coaching ones where you get certain coverages where that there's potential running lanes within coverages that they're playing that nobody really has the quarterback, or or are they spying the quarterback? How are they playing that coverage where all of a sudden you don't see a read, but you see a lane open up? No one's going to have you, and you're going to be running for a while. Then there's the feel thing where you look a play on Saturday. I think Dak hit Fred Brown on a long pass on Saturday, where he went one way, scrambled the other way. Look, probably could have run for 10 to 15 yards. In my mind, I'm thinking run, but I'm watching more of the protection aspect of it all, and what's going on up front, inside, and you can hear like Brian, I think in the headset's like throw. Like, okay. But that's that balance of, hey, do I go, keep my eyes downfield? Do I go take the 10-yard run, or do I try to hit a home run deep down the field? That's the feel.
Coach, on that note, when you talk about Dak's development as a senior, a play like that 3rd and long in the 2nd quarter where he steps up, dumps it down the hallway, and nobody touches it until he makes 16. Is that a play that Dak would have made last year or 2 years ago, an example of kind of...
No, probably not. In a lot of quarterbacks, because they're going to try to force the ball down the field in that situation. And that's just, again, a great understanding of him seeing they just turned in a it must have been, I think, in looking at it, a blown coverage, because it looked like they're in 2-man coverage. you know, where all of a sudden Dak looks, and those are in two-man, they're bracketing, you know, everybody's playing man on the receivers are bracket over the top. And a lot of quarterbacks can say, hey, it's 3rd and 16, I know, I got to try to make a throw down the field right here. Where Dak can see, hey, it's two-man, they're not covering the tailback. I can check it down, and he's going to be able to get the first down in that situation and not have to force the ball down the field. There's a lot of quarterbacks, that comes with a lot of experience and understanding the defense and situations of that a 3-yard pass can make 16 yards as easily as a 16-yard pass can make 16 yards. And that's, believe it or not, and mathematically it makes sense, you know, and when you watch it sometimes it makes sense, but on the field it doesn't always. And so that's his development.
What do you think has been the biggest difference for A.J. Jefferson this year, and just how has he progressed?
Well, I think, you know, I mean, one, as part of our program, I mean, we're a developmental program, and he's a guy that, you know, early on in his career, trying to figure it out, trying to learn what's going on within the program, but over the last year is a guy that, to me, has bought into what our program is all about. And, you know, the hard work, the sacrifice, committed to being the absolute best he can be every single day when he shows up to work. You know, and he's physically developed. He's developed himself with technique, and you know, and his understanding the game and how to make plays on the field. And I think that's just part of the developmental process of what we want in our program as guys buy in, and he's a perfect example of that.
Any update on Gus or Jamal or any of the injured players?
Sure. Let's see. Yeah, Fred Ross is going to be good to go this week. Gus will be, you know, I mean, will be a later in the week decision for us. Joe Morrow, Gabe Miles, you know, talking to our trainers today, they think they're well ahead of schedule and should be available this weekend. Shumpert, I think's another guy, but you know, we think he should be available this weekend. So, I'm missing. Jamal, yeah, Jamal's been worked out the last 2 days, so I don't think it'll be an issue. So, I don't, you know, as of today, right now, in with the trainer report, you know, I mean, you know, guys like Gus, Joe, and Gabe we'll see as the week progress. But talking to our trainers, they feel they should be available for Saturday.
What about Dez Harris? Was he injured?
Yeah, Dez tore his ACL, so he'll be out for the year.
Patrick Tullis has had 2 of his better games against you in the past. You know, how do you kind of contain that and keep him from going off again this week?
I don't know, hopefully eat something different or whatever. You know, I think for him, you know, I think you look at the game, and as I said, I think there's kind of like a little bit of a rivalry to that aspect of the game. And he's a quarterback who's going to step up in big games, and they know this is a big game, and he did. I think he tried to put the team on his shoulders last year, and running and throwing, and had a huge game at their place. The best way you need to disrupt any quarterback is have home field advantage. To have our student body, our fans on their feet, making an awful lot of noise and making it uncomfortable for the visiting quarterback to communicate the line of scrimmage and just to be in that hostile environment.
From heading into the latest SEC game against Kentucky, how has this team changed or improved from the first one when you played LSU?
Well, I think we're a lot different than then. You know, we're just trying to. You're at that point of the year. That's so early in the season. You're trying to figure out who you are as a team. You know, and I think guys have gotten a lot more comfortable playing. We've rotated a lot more players right now. As guys are getting experience onto the field. And playing more, and I think there's guys that are a lot more comfortable within the system. Young players are more comfortable within the system making plays. You know, older guys looking at what we're doing well, and you know, offensively and defensively, we look at that of, you know, what's working within our package or what we're executing at a high level in our package to utilize our talent. So I think we're gonna have a little bit more of identity of what our team is this year at this point.
Coach Fred Brown seems to be really matured as a player. What are you seeing from him on film and in practice?
Well, just that. I mean, as another developmental guy that, you know, I mean, Fred came in, I don't think it was real highly recruited out of high school, and, you know, didn't have huge numbers coming out of high school down in Jackson. And we had him, you know, came to our camp. We saw, hey, here's a guy that has a lot of potential. You know, came in early in his career and, you know, again, trying to figure it out. Now, maybe not always doing the right thing all the time, in his actions, but he really has, I think his maturity started with making good off-the-field decisions, and then all of a sudden you see the maturity go from off the field into the classroom, and then you see his GPA improve and do an excellent job of that. Then you see it switch into his practice habits and how he trains in the off-season. And all of a sudden, for a young guy, he starts having all this success on the field. And, and I think that's part of the learning process. So I think it's really easy, especially for these young men, to come in and realize that, hey, if I start doing the right thing and working as hard as I can all the time, I'm going to have a lot of success in every facet of my life. That's what our program's all about, to help these young people succeed and understand that, not just in football, but in life. And Fred's is an example of that type of guy that buy into the program, and all of a sudden he has success in a lot of different aspects of his life.
As you talk about evaluating younger players, what are you showing Eris and Dontavian as far as now they got live snaps, what to look for, how to protect the ball, what to see differently as they advance in the system?
Well, everything, it's mistakes, it's, pass protection is number one. You gotta be able to protect the quarterback. Two things on the field, running back, really, are those two: protection. You protect the quarterback, you protect the ball. Those are the two things, number one, that you have to do. There's a lot of guys that have cool highlight videos from high school. This is the Southeastern Conference, and so what they need to do is learn to be all-around football players. And I think they're getting better at that as they get experience, as they get reps, as they make mistakes. The biggest one to me is it's okay to make a mistake. Don't make the same mistake twice. That's a lack of mental discipline right there on your part. So, as you're making mistakes, I want to see them grow and develop after making a mistake. I don't want to see that happen again. I want to see them improve and move forward of looking, and they need to understand how they made that mistake, why they made that mistake, and know what we're going to do to fix it.
You look at like a Dak, Duranya, Beniquez, they've all won big games in the SEC before. How is the growth process for the younger guys like a Brandon Bryan or Gary Green? What's that growth like to play well and play in those big games?
Well, there's confidence, and I think those guys are growing with that confidence, and the more experience they get in their actions. Because on game day, the one thing you don't want to do is don't worry about making mistakes. Don't worry about doing all that stuff. Go out there and make plays. If you practice with a certain level of intensity, you're going to be ready on game day at that point to go out there and do your job at an extremely high level, and you can go relax and have fun and go make those plays, and that's how you end up winning the big games. And I think a lot of those young players, I think if you look at Saturday, we fell behind 14-0. To Dak, it's like, yeah, whatever, okay, we're good, we'll get the ball back, let's go, give me the ball. But there's other guys kind of looking around like, oh, we're down 14-0, what do we do now? Instead of just being, out there and understanding that you got to go play for 4 quarters right now, I'll be the guy that expects to make the play, not worried about making a mistake, be out there having fun, expecting to make great things happen on the field. And I think that just comes with a lot of practice and with the confidence you gain from doing it in practice over and over and over again, that when you hit to a Saturday, you feel great that you're going to be able to do it at an extremely high level on the field.
Coach, when you see an ending like the one in the Michigan State game, some other coach, some other team, do you see that and then it's like you get to use that as a free teach of something you work on with your team, or other coaches might do the same thing?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things that go on with that, because all the kids usually see it, especially you're home watching the game. And you can use it to just show your kids different opportunities, but more for our coaches in those situations of making sure that you've covered every base of the situation. As coaches, you're always trying to cover every different facet. Number one, what would you do in that situation as a coach? If something goes wrong, are you coaching the guys on the field to make sure they're doing the right thing in that situation? Just like everything, I guarantee you, after a couple of years ago, we work on covering field goals a lot more than we used to. And just in making sure that you know, that's not something, hey, we covered it once and you move on. Every aspect of the game, I think a lot of times when stuff like that happens, you know, you just go to your checklist again and say, have we covered every possible aspect of what could happen out there on a field in every situation?
Coach, only one team now undefeated in SEC play. You said that you think that the winner of the West could have a couple of losses, 2 or more. The last couple of weeks since you guys have played a conference game reaffirmed that thought for you?
Sure. You know, again, I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of the West went undefeated, and I wouldn't be surprised if they had 3 losses. I really wouldn't. You know, I think you look at with how the division is and how I think the level of the teams are, everybody's pretty close, and it's going to come to whether you play good or not. You know, I mean, if you where we're at, all our games are conference games. So I mean, if we play well, we have a chance to win the rest of our games. If we play poorly, we have a chance. You know, if we play poorly every week, we won't win anymore. You know, you have got to come out and play at an extremely high level to have an opportunity to win. When you're playing SEC conference, when you're playing SEC games, and you know, within this conference, and the margin of error is so small that's it. And you know, I mean, there's little things you can see that is now, but playing well doesn't mean you're going to win. You got to play well and make plays. Because if both teams play well, then you know what, you're going to have a pretty exciting football game. But if one team doesn't play that well and the other team does, it really doesn't. There's not a team in the West that can go out there and play poorly. The other team they're playing play well and expect to win the game. There's not. I don't think there's that much separation of teams that can happen.
And no quarterback's 100% the same, but Driscoll and Tiles look like they're comparable in a lot of ways. Having just played Driscoll help that at all?
Well, yeah, because I think they're a little bit different what they do offensively in that deal, but talent level, you know, or not talent level, it is their skill set. I would say maybe more than talent level. Is their skill sets are very similar. Where you have this big guy with a great arm that can really throw the ball. That, you know, on paper you would think is going to be your prototypical strong arm in the pocket quarterback, but that also can make some really good thing happen with their feet running the football. You know, and that's always a challenge is, you know, when you're playing a quarterback that can do the unpredictable, you know what I mean, that can get outside the box where you can stop a play and they can still create on their own. That's what causes some issues for defenses.
What's Brandon Bryant meant to the defense? I think he's been involved in 3 turnovers in the last 2 games.
A lot, you know, and I mean, well, I mean, he could be scoring a whole bunch too, because he recovered the fumble on the punt. He could have had 2 touchdowns on Saturday. You know, I guess he felt bad for Dak, wanted to make sure he had another touchdown there rather than having him scoring. But I think it shows. I mean, we thought he was going to be a really good player for us. You know, I think he worked really hard in the spring. He's taken advantage of his opportunities, and you know, I think he's really working. He's got a long way to go because, you know, I think he's a guy right now that is making some big plays, which I want to see, which I love. He makes some mistakes. You might not see all the mistakes he makes on film. I mean, I see it on film. You might not see it just watching the game. Some little things here and there. But how he's playing, you know, I think he's understanding, really learning. If I play as hard as I can play at this certain speed, I'm going to make plays. And then I got to learn my technique fundamentals and what to do, assignment as I go. Don't slow down to try to think about doing everything the right way. Play at full speed, and your reps are going to get you to that level, and that's going to help him throughout his career.
You've had some Thursday night games here in the past. How much an advantage does that give a coaching staff moving forward to the next week, just having those few extra days?
Well, I think that, you know, a couple things. You know, I mean, I think, you know, the one thing that helped us, we played at 11 a.m. this week. You know, I mean, we had the film graded by 7 o'clock Saturday night from that game. I did, you know, at home, so I got to go home and grade the film late afternoon, early evening. So you come in Sunday and you kind of are a little bit ahead of schedule. At that point, and you're rested. I mean, I came in Sunday morning, I was ready to get to work, you know, and off of more than 2 to 3 hours of sleep. But I think for them getting to play Thursday night, they got to do that Friday. You know, they got to start on us on Saturday and be rested. You know, the players get a couple days off. They get a couple more days to heal the bumps and bruises. So when they go out to practice, I imagine they're practicing today, coming off the Thursday night game with the bye. So they come out to practice today. You know, they don't have guys that are still kind of limping around or still on the injury report or aren't available to midweek. You know, they've had guys that have had 72 hours of rest coming out there fresh to go to practice. So I think there is an advantage with that.
Back to Patrick Tolles. Last year he had a pretty good game against you guys and things. What did he do last year that you guys? I guess what things did you learn last year that you have to be better at this year?
Well, I mean, he made some huge throws. I mean, was really accurate with the ball, got it out of his hands, scrambled around, made things happen, ran physically. I don't know if there was something different we would have done. You know, I mean, you got a guy that's on fire at the quarterback position. It's tough to stop. So, you know, I mean, I don't think there's much different we would have done. You know, for him, he just played an outstanding game.
You look at Brandon Bryant, I think that the first touchdown they scored, he was a safety over the top. It may have been late or whatever happened there. And then he recovers, I think the last time that Latek was down there, recovers and broke the pass. Just in that game alone, how did you see him grow, as I said, just in that game, and then you had a couple of turnovers as well?
Well, I think as you start to make plays, too, the confidence comes in, and you get used to the speed. You know, I mean, I think games, you know, you can try all you want to simulate the game in practice, but it's the game. And, you know, so I think that every snap, I'd expect him to improve because, you know, I mean, he hasn't played that many snaps in games, and it's hard to simulate a game in practice. So I think throughout the course, you know, you don't get surprised when you see that as a guy who starts the game, maybe not used to the speed. You know, where you take a Dak Prescott, he's going to know what game speed is right on snap one. Tevez Calhoun's going to know what game speed is right on snap one. You know, Ryan Brown, guys that have started for years for us. But younger players, you know, sometimes it's that change from practice and walkthrough and preparation into kickoff and how to go play at full speed right from the opening kick. There's a learning curve that goes with that.
Coach Dak's in that group now with Tim Tebow and Manziel, throw for 50, run for 30, only SEC guys to do it. So you've coached 2 of the 3. So what is that an indication of in terms of you as a coach?
That I'm a great coach or what?
Yeah. Does that mean you're a good coach?
Does that mean I'm a good coach? It's like my my Fitbit. I get a badge or something for that. I'm going to show up on my phone later today, right? I got the 50-30 badge as a coach. The second one. No, I think you know, number one, I think kind of our offense puts guys in a position to do those type of things. First off, you know, that we're an offense that really highlights the strengths of quarterbacks. And you know, if you're going to play quarterback at Mississippi State, you're going to have the opportunity to be a pretty special player. You know, get a lot of accolades and other things because we do put a lot on our quarterback within our system. You know, and I just think a lot of that's on Dak, on his development, his growth, and what he's been able to do, because that's not easy to do. That's a lot of touchdowns that he's responsible for out there on the field. And, you know, I mean, you know, if you talk to him, I'm sure he'll be very humble about it. There's other, you know, I mean, he's thrown over 50 touchdown passes. I mean, someone had to catch him. You know, I mean, he's ran for 30 or scored 30, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's caught a couple, too.
90 total.
He's got 90 total. That's a lot. You know, someone had to throw it to him. People had to block for him when he's running. He had to throw it, and they had to catch it. So I think it's a lot for the team. But you know, I think a lot is on him and the success we've had offensively because of his growth in playmaking ability.
I think the defense, 41% of the points they've allowed the entire season have come in the first quarter. What's happening in that first quarter that the other teams are just getting a jump on?
Well, you know what? I think in talking to Manny, it's that adjusting to the game speed extremely quickly. When you have young players sometimes, you know, they're getting out there, maybe not adjusting to the speed of the game as quickly as we needed to. You know, I mean, and you look at Saturday's game. I mean, I think in the first 8 minutes of the game, we give up 2 touchdowns, and then we give up 6 points the rest of the way. So I think it's just that getting out there, getting a fast start, for us, and getting into the flow of the game immediately. You know, I mean, and I think that is a part of guys of transitioning into, you know, we run out of that tunnel and that foot hits the ball, I better be going 100 miles an hour and ready to play at my absolute best that second.